Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if banished Naruto becomes the new Raikage of Kumo and leads it to greatness part 3. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. Good day Yoruichi, I'm surprised that you arrive back so soon. I did not expect you back till at least this evening. I trust that the talks with the Saito Hajime went without much difficulty, said the Raikage politely as he made his way down the spiral stairs and seated himself in his seat behind his desk facing her. There was no real problem with the talks, although Saito and the rebel factions are hesitant to join forces with us as you expected. But I was able to arrange an agreement with Saito where in return for supplies of food, medicine as well as a few other things he and the other rebel factions are willing to give us detailed information on the Mizukage and the Mizu Daimyo, which includes any and all plans that they are making and information of their military strengths, said Yoruichi. This caused the Raikage to smile since he knew that the information from Saito and his people would very useful in the near future against the Mizukage and the Mizu Daimyo, not to mention that this arrangement with the rebel factions would be an important stepping stone for a full alliance with them. Good work Yoruichi, you did an excellent job. I knew you would even if the rebel factions in Mizu ni Kuni are not fully allied with us. They are at least willing to share information with us, and with this agreement we can slowly gain their trust and where we can then get a full alliance with them later on, said the Raikage. Raikage-sama, there's something else that you should know. Princess Saki of Umi no Kuni has been captured by the Mizukage and the Mizu Daimyo forces 5 days ago, said Yoruichi. What? Shouted the Raikage in disbelief. Yoruichi then went and explained what her summon Hina had told her about what had happened to the princess. When she finished, the Raikage spoke in a serious tone of voice. Yoruichi, did you give Saito the projection ball like I asked you to? Yes, of course, answered Yoruichi. I even showed him how it works and what to do, she continued. The Raikage nodded and then went and opened up a small box on his desk. In the box was a small glass ball that had several seals carved on it. The ball was small enough to fit perfectly in the palm of his hand. Although the Raikage was not the type of person to brag about how skilled he was, he had to compliment himself on his skills in creating the projection ball. The projection ball worked as a two-way communication link for the Raikage, where if he needed to speak to one of his commanders or the leaders of an alliance member country or an allied country, all he would need to do would be to place the ball in his hand and think of the person he wanted to speak with, in which the other person ball would start to glow and heat up, telling them that someone wanted to speak to them, in which once they picked up the ball in their hand an astral projection of the Raikage would appear in front of them, as would an astral projection of them appear to the Raikage. It would even work for other holders of the projections balls, where they could not only make contact with the Raikage but they could also make contact with one another. It also had a security measure where when a person first gets a projection ball, all they need to do would be to spread some of their blood on the ball and it would connect them with the other projection balls, and the ball they got would only work for them since it only works for the person whose blood was spread on it first. The projection ball was based on a jutsu that he read about in one of his old sensei scrolls that was called the Gentoshin no Jutsu, magic lantern body technique. Although the scroll explained the basic of how the jutsu worked, it did not tell him how it was done, in which the Raikage then spent several years creating his own version of it with seals, which in the end proved successful. The Raikage quickly picked up the projection ball and closed his eyes and then reopened them again when an astral projection of Saito Hajime appeared in front of them. So this is how this thing works. I hate to admit it, but this is an impressive piece of fuinjutsu, commented Saito, in which he then looked up at the Raikage and raised his eyebrow. So you're the famed Rokudaime Raikage I being hearing so much about, the famed the Raiden no Kami, the god of thunder and lightning, or as many shinobi in Kiri call you, the Arashi no Oni, the demon of storms. I have to admit I pictured someone a bit different from all the stories I heard about you, especially that rumor I heard recently where you defeated Saito, but before he could continue the Raikage interrupted him. Forgive me, Saito-san, but as much as I like to have a pleasant conversation with you about the things you heard about me, I must interrupt you since I wish to speak to you about the information that you had sent to Yoruichi, spoke the Raikage seriously. Fine. What is it that you want to know? Asked Saito. I would like you to give me a more detailed account on what happened and what the Mizukage and the Mizu Daimyo are planning on doing, since I guessing what you told to Yoruichi was just a basic overview of what happened, said the Raikage. Saito just nodded and then spent the next half hour explaining in detail what had happened, since an agent of one of the rebel factions in Mizu no Kuni was on board one of the ships when they attacked the princess ship. He also told them the names of Konoha ninjas that had been captured with her and that they were all being held in the hold, Mizu no Kuni's strongest prison. When Saito finished, the Raikage thanked him and told him that he send medical and food supplies to him and his forces within 2 weeks, and said that he may call on him for more information soon, which Saito just nodded and his astral projection disappeared. When Saito's astral projection disappeared, a hardened look came across his face. Yoruichi knew this look well since she had fought with him in many battles during the Civil War. During the Civil War she became close friends with the Raikage and was considered one of his closest friends, as did she, hence she was able to know when he was angry or extremely serious about something, and the look on his face told her that he was planning something big and it would be serious. The Raikage quickly called for his secretary Nanao, in which she quickly entered the room. Nanao, I want you to send a message to all shinobi commanders and all major shinobi clan heads, as well as Lady Daimyo Kicho and Sensei. I want you to tell them that we are convening a war council in 2 hours' time, order the Raikage. This of course got a surprise gasp from both women, since there had not been a war council since the country final stabilized, when the Raikage was able to get all the remaining forces of the Godaime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki to surrender and join the rebel factions. The only reason a war council would be held would be either to declare war on another country or a plan a major military operation, either of which was possible right now. It took a few minutes for the two women to get out of their shock states, but they eventually did, in which Nanao quickly nodded her head and went to do what the Raikage ordered. The Raikage then turned to Yoruichi and told her to go get a bite to eat and have a shower and be ready for the war council since she would be expected there. After which the woman nodded and left the office, leaving the Raikage alone with his thoughts. Things are moving much faster than I had expected them to, but if I plan this right, I can turn this to our advantage, and the Heavenly Alliance will have a few new members as well as a new ally, thought the Raikage as he started to work on the plan to rescue the princess and make both Kumo and the Heavenly Alliance stronger. 2 hours later, in the War Council room. The War Council room of Kumo was a large room inside the Raikage Tower mountain. It had a 30-foot tall entrance with 2 equally sized double wooden doors to close it to outsiders. Inside the middle of the room was a large wooded round table that would allow up to 30 people to sit around it. One of the chairs around the table was larger than the others and more elegant in design. That seat was reserved for the Raikage. There was also another seat behind the Raikage seat, which was on a large stone pedestal with a seat on it which overlooked the War Council table. This seat was for the daimyo, in which the daimyo would be allowed to watch over the council meeting if she wished to, and could add her input if it was required or asked. Also on the wall of the council room on the right-hand side of the War Council table was a map of the elemental continent and the entire island nations near it. The room itself had also seals in it to prevent anyone to outside the room to hear what was being said or what was going on in the room. Yoruichi was the first person to arrive in the War Council room, and as she entered, the 2 storm members guarding the door saluted her, which she replied in just. She then went and took her seat and put up her legs on the table to wait for the others to arrive, which was not long, since about 2 minutes after she arrived in the room her former second-in-command Soifun entered the room. Soifun was a relatively short and petite woman with lightly tanned skin and black hair. She wore sleeveless white haori and a yellow obi tied around her waist. Underneath it she wore a tradition ninja outfit that has no sleeves and didn't cover her back. Her hair was worn short with 2 long braids covered in cloth. Soifun and Yoruichi had been friends for many years, even before the beginning of the civil war in Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni. Before the Civil War, Yoruichi was a Anbu captain of Kumo assassin division. Much like Wan Shi was now, Soifin had joined her division as a young gifted prodigy who saw Yoruichi as her hero and idol. Yoruichi later on took her on as an apprentice, in which they grew close, and Yoruichi saw her as a younger sister while Soifin thought of her as both an older sister and her idol. When the Civil War started, Soifin followed Yoruichi along with many others from Yoruichi division and fought for the rebels. After the Civil War ended, Soifin became the captain of the shock division. But even though they were equal rank, Soifin continued to regard Yoruichi as her superior and continued to call her Yoruichi-sama, which annoyed Yoruichi since she hated being called by old traditional titles like sama, and Soifin knew that well. "Hello Yuichi-sama, it's good to see you back," said Soifin politely. Yoruichi just signed and said, "How many times do I have to tell you, Soifin, to stop calling me that? We are equal rank now, and even when I took you as my apprentice I told you not to call me that. You know how much I hate being called by those stuffy old title names. Even that husband of yours doesn't like being called like that when he off duty. But what's wrong with calling you Yoruichi-sama? Yoruichi-sama, I'm only showing you respect, Yoruichi-sama. You can't possibly hate being called Yoruichi-sama that much." "Yoruichi-sama," said Soifin with a small smirk on her face when she saw Yoruichi eyebrow twitch with annoyance, since she loved to annoy her like this after all the times Yoruichi used to tease and annoy her, since Soifin knew how much things like that annoyed her former sensei and surrogate big sister. Yoruichi just sighed again with annoyance and said, "I swear you're getting more and more like that husband of yours, especially when he gets in the mood to annoy someone. Whatever happened to that stiff young girl who always followed orders and didn't question why and hardly ever lightened up? I believe she left after a few years of being your apprentice, since a bit of you had to rub off me as well as when I got married," answered Soifin with a small smile, after which the two women then started to laugh a bit but soon after stopped and got serious. "So the War Council has finally been called again. Do you know why?" asked Soifin, to which Yoruichi nodded and said, "Yes, I do, but I believe that it best to wait till he and all the others arrive, since he can give you the full detail of what happening and what he plans to do." Soifin just nodded, understanding that she would find out what was happening soon enough. The two women were soon joined by Hayabusa Ryu, head of the Storm Anbu division of Kumo, as well head of the Hayabusa clan. Although the Hayabusa clan held no blood limit, they were the best assassins and fighters in all of Kumo, which Yoruichi knew well since most of her best men and women were from that clan. The Hayabusa clan ninjas also made up a large fraction of the Storm division as well. This was because at a very young age all children in the Hayabusa clan were trained to be shinobis, where they went through harsh training so that they would be as strong and skilled as they could be. The clan was also extremely loyal to the Raikage, due to that fact that during the Civil War the Hayabusa clan sided with the rebels, in which at a late point in the war the Godime Raikage found the secret base of Hayabusa clan where their families stayed. He then tricked most of the clan's shinobi to leave it, in which he sent a large force of his ninjas to attack the base and destroy it, and captured as many of the women and children as possible so to hold them as hostages, so to force the Hayabusa clan to fight for him and control them. Fortunately, the Raikage had been near the base and was able to drive back the Godime forces, and when the Hayabusa clan shinobis returned and found out what happened, Hayabusa Joe, Ryu father and clan head of the Hayabusa clan before he was killed in battle near the end of the Civil War, swore a blood oath that he and his clan would serve and protect the Raikage and his future clan until they repaid the debt that they owed him for saving their families. Despite his age, Ryu had the demeanor of a man far older than himself and often spoke with great wisdom, which many people would stay silent to listen to. This was due to his prolific lineage and mantle of station as the head of a highly respected shinobi clan in Kumo as well as in other nations. His exploits from the Civil War and before it had given him an attitude far removed from most others, and he understood things in more abstract and philosophical terms. He had a tranquil nature, much akin to water, free-flowing most of the time, but unforgiving and crushing when roused, in which many people would often try and stay on his good side. Although not often, he would join many of shinobi commanders in a few social drinks of sake now and again. He was even married to the daughter of the head of the Mugen Tenshin ninja clan Kasumi, since both their clans had always good strong relations with one another. Ryu wore a tight black leather outfit with no sleeves, black leather boots, fingerless gloves on his hands, gauntlets on his arm, a cape on his back, and wore a mask to cover most of his face, as well as wear his own clan unique headband with the Kumo symbol on it. He also carried a sword on his back and kunais on his left leg. Altogether, Ryu was dressed like what most people expected a ninja to look like, which was not surprising since the Hayabusa clan took their title as a ninja clan very serious. When Ryu saw both women, he greeted them politely and then settled down in his seat on the table. Soon after, they were joined by Shiden, leader of the Mugen Tenshin clan, who were among Kumo top ninja clans. They were well known for their unique fighting styles, the Tenjin Mon and the Hajin Mon, which allowed them to gain incredible strength and power. Like Hayabusa clan, the Mugen Tenshin clan fought with the rebel factions due to their close ties with the Hayabusa clan, which only got stronger with the marriage between his daughter Kasumi and Ryu. Just after Shiden arrived, two other people arrived. They were Akechi Mitsuhide and Miyoshi Sayuri. Akechi Mitsuhide was the county chief of operations for all the shinobi forces, where he would help decided who would go on what missions and could only be overruled by the Raikage. Also, should the Raikage be unable to run or organize the shinobi forces, Mitsuhide would take full control of the shinobi forces. Mitsuhide was a very handsome man. Despite being in his early 30s, he still looked like a man in his mid-20s. He had a narrow but well-sculpted face and had long black raven-colored hair and clear blue eyes. Mitsuhide wore white shinobi pants with sliver knee pads and boots. He also wore a white shirt with silver samurai-like armor and had a white cloak and carried a long katana that he called Gilded Talon. Mitsuhide was also one of the first teachers to the Raikage back before he became Raikage. Mitsuhide was a former member of the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananshu, 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. Before he became a missing nin, Mitsuhide was credited with being one of the greatest prodigies of his time in Kiri, since at age 13 he became head of the Oinen division. When he was 15, he became a Jonin and a member of the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananshu. It was also said that he was a prodigy of the sword, in which he mastered at a very young age the fighting style of his clan, the Taka Kyukoka, the Swooping Hawk. He also earned the nickname of Shirotakai no Kiri, Mist White Death, since he wore a white cloak and armor. During his time as head of the Oinen division, virtually all of Kiri missing nin were eliminated within weeks of going rogue, but after he went rogue himself, the efficiency of Kiri Oinen division went down greatly, which caused for Kiri to have the highest amount of missing nin from its village than in any other shinobi nation. Mitsuhide also had a dujutsu called the Takagen Hawkeye, which gives the user the ability to see great distances, keep up with great speeds, see through genjutsu and see through objects, much like the Hyuga clan Byakugan and the Uchiha clan Sharingan, as well as allowing the user to hit an object with 99.99% accuracy no matter how small or how far the object was, which was why the Akechi clan were so famed in Kiri as assassins. Mitsuhide was also one of the few in his clan to activate the second level of the Takagen, which allowed the user to see even greater distance than before, but also allowed him to see a object or person weakest points, which if hit he could destroy a boulder with just hitting it weak point with a single strike, as well as disable or even kill a person with one strike, whether it be a hand strike or a sword strike, by seeing the weakest point of their body. Unfortunately, Mitsuhide was also the last of his clan, since during the early parts of the Bloodline Crusade in Kiri his clan was wiped out, in which he was forced into hiding until near the end of the crusade, where he avenged his clan by killing 300 Bloodline Hunters, which was nearly the entire Bloodline Hunter division, in a single night when they were at their main base in Kiri. After the attack, Mitsuhide was declared an S-rank missing ninja with an engaged with caution warning on him. Later on, during the civil war in Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni, he won great fame and respect when he joined the rebel factions of Kaminari no Kuni and Kumo, as well as earned the nickname Kumo no Shirotaka, White Falcon of Cloud. The woman with Mitsuhide was his longtime childhood friend and partner Miyoshi Sayuri, who like Mitsuhide helped to train the Raikage back before he became the Raikage. Also, like Mitsuhide, she was the county chief of operations for all the shinobi forces. She was also formerly of Kiri, where she was his genin partner back when they were younger. Both rose through the ranks and both became members of the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananan Shu. Like Mitsuhide, Sayuri was a highly gifted shinobi in which she mastered the sword art of dual-bladed sword fighting. She also had a bloodline called Shitakiri Katai, the mist body vapor, which allows her to turn her body into a mist-like vapor. When in this form she couldn't be harmed by any physical weapon, and it allows her to go through even the smallest of cracks and holes to infiltrate enemy bases, forts and castles. She could also enter a person body through their mouth and drain all the liquids from the person body, leaving the person noting more than a dry husk. This of course made the Miyoshi clan valuable infiltrators and assassins, and like the Akechi clan, her clan had been wiped out quickly by the bloodline hunters, in which later on she avenged her clan by killing the entire Kiri council who supported the Yodaime Mizukage slaughter of bloodline users and had ordered her clan's massacre. After slaughtering the Kiri council, Sayuri was made an A-rank missing ninja and like Mitsuhide had engaged with caution warning on her. Back when she was with Kiri, Sayuri was known as the Kiri no Shinkudakai, Crimson Death of Mist, and when she joined the rebel factions in Kaminari no Kuni and Kumo, she became known as Shinkukiri no Kumo, Cloud's Crimson Mist. Sayuri wore brown leather pants with brown leather boots. She also wore a white midriff top with long sleeves, that showed her figure quite nicely, and had a short cloak. She also carried two short curved swords that she had holsters for each one on her legs. Sayuri had a sharp yet attractive face, short crimson red hair in which it fell down her face slightly and covered the left-hand side of her face, and she had bright green eyes. It had also been greatly rumored that both Mitsuhide and Sayuri were lovers, since neither were very often seen without the other, while others just believed that they were close friends, but no one had the courage to ask them straight out since they did not want to get on either of their bad sides. Both Mitsuhide and Sayuri greeted the members who had already entered the war council room and took their seats near the Raikage seat. Not long after Mitsuhide and Sayuri, three more people arrived. They were Joyu, Gon Ning and Sun Li. All three of them commanded aspects of Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni naval forces. Gon Ning was the leader of the Ning clan and commander of Kumo fleet. He was also the best sea captain in all of the Heavenly Alliance and was also a former sea pirate. He was originally from Kiri and was from the Ning clan, who painted animal tattoos on their bodies and used special jutsus that were used by only their clan that allowed the animals on their bodies to come to life, much like Choju Giga, viz. Super Beast's imitation picture, and return to their bodies when they were destroyed or were called back to their wielder. They could also control the animals with their thoughts and see what their animals could see as well. When the Bloodline Crusade began, his clan fled Mizu no Kuni since they feared people would consider their clan jutsu as a bloodline and start to attack them. The Ning clan fled to a small island where they were forced to become pirates so that they would survive. During the civil war in Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni, he and his men tried to raid a dock belonging to one of the rebel factions but were captured by Denko, the name the Raikage went by before he became the Raikage. When Gon Ning explained why he was raiding their dock, Denko gave him a choice: become the new leader of the rebel faction's fleet and have his clan join the rebel factions and have a chance of having a new home to live in, or spend the rest of his life in prison while his clan would be hunted down and destroyed by Kiri or some other nation, or starve to death with no food or supplies. Gon Ning had little choice but to agree. During the Civil War he won great fame for his seafaring skill and ability to command ships and men, as well as leading raids on docks and ships belonging to Daimyo Yoshiaki and the Godaime Raikage. After the Civil War ended, Gon Ning was made commander of Kumo fleet and captain of his own ship. Personality-wise, Gon Ning was a man of action who didn't like to adjust to proper etiquette. He was also wild and fearless, as well as a brilliant leader of men, and was only really satisfied with a good brawl or battle. He was also confident in his abilities and, though he seemed arrogant, he had a good head on his shoulders and proved it many times in battle and knew when to rely on teamwork. However, He was fickle about who he take orders from, although there were several people he did not mind taking orders from, for example the Raikage, since Gon Ning respected him a great deal. Gon Ning worn loose-fitting shinobi-like pants and normal boots. He also worn a sleeveless vest and a ribbon that acted as a belt for him. He also had bandages around his stomach and worn the Kumo headband around his head. He even worn bells around his neck, say that they allow his enemies to know when the bell tolls for them. Gon Ning had brown spiky hair and had a roughish-looking face. He also had tattoos of animals all over his body. He even carried a large curved sword that looked like a large cutting knife, and he called the sword Leviathan. Sun Li was the commander of Kumo submarine fleet and underwater shinobi fighting force Aqua, which was a force created to counter Kiri underwater fighting force Shark. Sun Li was originally from a well-off sea merchant family, and when the civil war started her family sided with the Godime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki, while she herself joined the rebel factions and became a very skilled shinobi. During the Civil War she became an excellent commander of men, and due to her experience in ships and was the one who suggested to create Kumo-owned counter forces of underwater fighters, which she was given command of, as well as command of Kumo submarine fleet when the Civil War ended. Personality-wise, Sun Li was upbeat and independent woman who was considered to be a tomboyish by many people. She was loving and loyal to her friends and family, who were pardoned for siding against the rebel factions. She was always eager to lend a helping hand to others and frequently wanted to prove her worth in battle, which often caused her husband to worry. Sun Li was also very beautiful. She had short brown hair and emerald green eyes and a curvy body. Her clothing also reflected her personality since it gave her a tomboyish look. She had a tight red top and shorts, with matching socks and shoes, and wore a Kumo headband on her head with the symbol cloth being red instead of brown. Joyu was the supreme commander of all Kaminari no Kuni naval forces, and although he mainly only commanded Kaminari no Kuni naval forces, under wartime emergencies or events he would be given overall command of Kumos and all the other members of the Heavenly Alliance naval forces. This was due to the fact that Joyu was one of the most brilliant naval strategic commanders in the elemental continent. He was also highly skilled in the ninja arts of combat, but was not a ninja of Kumo. He was also a highly skilled user in fire techniques. During the Civil War, Joyu fought for Daimyo Yoshiaki and he commanded his fleets as well as Kumo. Despite not liking either Daimyo Yoshiaki or the Godime Raikage, he remained loyal to them due to they were still the rightful rulers of Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni, in which he won them many naval victories as well as nearly destroying the rebel fleet on severely occasions during the Civil War, and kept the seas of Kaminari no Kuni virtually completely under Daimyo Yoshiaki and the Godime Raikage control. It was not until Anasu, the famed Kumo no Aizuryu, Ice Dragon of Kumo, and Gon Ning joined the rebel factions did the tide turn against him, in which during the Battle of Eagle's Peak most of his fleet had been destroyed by Anasu. When the Civil War ended, Joyu had been taken prisoner, in which he was later on offered the rank Supreme Commander of Kaminari no Kuni naval forces, which naturally caught him by surprise since he had expected to be executed or in prison for the rest of his life for siding against the rebel factions. It was later on that he learned that despite the fact he fought against them, he had earned a great deal of respect from the Raikage and other rebel factions due to always taking prisoner from destroyed enemy ships instead of letting them drown, giving plenty of food, clothing and medical supplies for the prisoners, and always fought with honor and allowed enemy ships to surrender and did not fire on retreating ships or civilian ports and ships carrying civilians like some fleet commanders did. Personality-wise, he was a man who valued honor most of all. He was also very loyal to his friends and country, as well as very intelligent man and a keen strategist. He was also a lover of music and was known well for playing the flute extremely well. Joyu was also an extremely attractive man. He had long brown hair, dark brown eyes, and was very handsome, where many girls tried to win his affection. He wore tradition clothing for someone of the royal court. 7. Jo also wielded a straight, thin, narrow sword with a red dragon carved on the blade. All three quickly sat down, greeting the people who were in so far in their own way with a slight nod of the head in greet from Joyu, a friendly smile from Sun Li, and a grin Gon Ning. The remaining other 7 clan heads entered right after Joyu and the others. They were Kuchiki Byakuya of the Kuchiki clan, Godo Kasaragi of the Kasaragi clan, Kai Wengi of the Wengi clan, Ishida Rukin of the Ishida clan, Tatara Raito of the Tatara clan, Yuki Nadi of the Yuki clan and Zhao Yun of the Yun clan. Godo Kasaragi was leader of the Kasaragi clan. He was a fiercely proud man, as were his clan members. They had fled their country Wutai when it was conquered by a more powerful country, in which they became a wandering clan. It was just when the civil war in Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni ended and the rebuilding and stabilization of the country was beginning that Godo Kasaragi and his clan offered their services to help the country in return of allowing them to stay, in which both Lady Daimyo Kicho and the Raikage agreed to. The Kasaragi clan was well known for having several very powerful summoning contracts that they could use, which made them quite powerful in their own right. Kai Wengi was the leader of the Wengi clan. She was a powerful woman who had an aura of strength and nobility around her and was well respected by everyone. She was a powerful genjutsu mistress as well as an extremely powerful wind mistress. Kai Wengi was a woman of strong conviction and always did what she believed to be best for her clan no matter what it cost her. She also valued loyalty and showed respect to those who she believed worthy of it. Originally she and her clan were from Suna but were forced to leave the village when they learned that the Yondaime Kazekage was planning to have them killed and claim that they were traitors. For about 14 years Kai Wengi and her clan wandered around the elemental continent, where they eventually joined in the civil war in Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni with the daimyo Yoshiaki and the Godaime Raikage, with the promise of a new home and a position as a powerful clan when the civil war ended. Although when they lost they were forgiven by the Rokudaime Raikage, and he offered them the same deal, which the Wengi clan accepted and swore loyalty to the Raikage since they had been touched by the Raikage forgiveness and generosity. Although it was not well known, the reason why the Wengi clan fled Suna was because the Wengi clan had been the guardians of the demon Ikibi no Shukaku, one-tailed Shukaku, and were sworn to keep it from harming the people of Suna. After seeing the destruction that the former host of the Ikibi no Shukaku caused, the Wengi clan pleaded with the Sandaime Kazekage to not create another Jinchuriki, since all it would do would drive the host mad like it did to the monk that the Ikibi no Shukaku was sealed in, and create another unstable Jinchuriki that would threaten Suna. The Sandaime Kazekage eventually agreed to seal up the demon back into the tea kettle, but when the Sandaime Kazekage disappeared, secretly killed by Sasori, and replaced by the Yondaime Kazekage, the agreement was nullified. The Yondaime Kazekage sealed the Ikibi no Shukaku into his newborn son despite the Wengi clan objections and warnings. Eventually, when the Yondaime Kazekage realized that the Wengi clan had been right all along, he ordered for his son to be killed, but all attempts failed. When the Wengi clan heard what the Yondaime Kazekage was planning, they offered to take Gaara into their clan and train him and help him control the Ikibi no Shukaku, since they saw how bad his life was and how he struggled to control his power and knew he wasn't a demon, and they felt responsible for him, but the Yondaime Kazekage forbid this, since back when he had the Ikibi no Shukaku first sealed into his son, he forbade that any member of the Wengi clan to come near his son. The reason for this was because the Yondaime Kazekage feared that the Wengi clan would use their knowledge of the Ikibi no Shukaku and build a bond between Gaara and their clan, in which they would train him to become a weapon for them to use to take control of the village for them. Eventually the Yondaime Kazekage had order for the Wengi clan to be wiped out under the guise that they were planning a coup d'état. Fortunately, they were able to find out about it before the order could be carried out. They had even tried to take Gaara with them, but on the night they fled, Gaara uncle Yashimaru tried to kill him under the orders of his father, and the men that were sent to take Gaara could not get near him since he became completely unhinged by his uncle's betrayal and attack and could not get near him, which resulted in them leaving him in the village. The Wengi clan also were the only people known except for Gaara to be able to use Sabuten, sand release. It was believed that due to their knowledge of the Ikibi no Shukaku and its abilities that they knew how to do Sabuten, although despite this knowledge they are not able to use Sabuten to the same level as Gaara could. Kai Wengi wore 8. She also carried a long straight narrow sword and a large battle fan on her back. Kuchiki Byakuya was the leader of the Kuchiki clan, which was one of the founding clans of the Kumo and one of the 5 clans in Kaminari no Kuni or Kumo that had a Kekkei Genkei, although that had changed after the civil war ended. The Kuchiki clan had a bloodline that was similar to the of the Shidaime Hokage Mokuten would release. Their abilities was to be able to control plants and do plant jutsu. The ability was called Kuboden, plant release. Similar to the Shidaime Hokage Mokuten, the Kuboden allowed a person to create plants out of the ground and control them in any way they wished. They could even create giant plants that could devour a man if they wished to. Although despite their ability only a quarter of the clan could do it, with the majority being unable. The only ability that all members of the Kuchiki clan shared was their high control over their chakra. Byakuya was a very handsome man where many women from important families often tried to gain his attention but failed since he had never gotten over the loss of his wife during the Civil War. During the Civil War, the Kuchiki clan fought for the Godime Raikage due to despite what he did, he was still the rightful leader of Kumo. But eventually, when they learned some of the other crimes that the Godime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki had done, after which they sided with the rebels factions near the end of the Civil War and helped give them valuable information on the Godime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki plans. Byakuya himself was by far the most powerful and gifted member of his clan and was said to be the greatest prodigy to be born in the clan in almost 100 years. It is also said that he was strongest member in his clan to be ever born, since he had complete mastery of the Kuboden to a level far beyond any other clan member, where he could channel his chakra into thousands of flower petals or even tree leaves and control them all at once and have them spin so fast and that they would act like thousands of small blades cutting his enemies to pieces. He is even a master genjutsu user. Personality-wise, Byakuya acted in an aristocratic manner. He seemed always serene and apathetic towards other people, even when he was deeply conflicted. He was also extremely calm, even in battle, and was very seldom surprised by even the most drastic of actions. This was due in part to his status in Kumo as the leader of one of Kumo's most noble clans. He generally acted indifferent, bordering on arrogance, to most situations that he faced, where he rarely viewed his enemies or other people worth his time. But despite this trait, Byakuya was a very perceptive man and was fully aware of the limits of his abilities, and usually anything he would state in comparison to a person was justified. Byakuya also strongly believed in law and order and believed that shinobis should do whatever it takes to protect their home and their people from harm. In spite of his icy and regal manner, Byakuya cared for and protects those important to him, which includes family and friends, since despite his cold manner he does have several friends that he cares about. Byakuya wore a white shitagi, a black kosode, a black hakama, a white hakama himo, white tabi, and waraji in a white haori over the black kosode. He also kept his long shoulder-length black hair in a white headpiece called a kenseiken. He also wore fingerless white gloves that covered only the back of his hands and wore a scarf made from the silver white, windflower light silk, which was a family heirloom that was handed down from generation to generation and was given to each Kuchiki family head. The scarf alone was worth enough to buy 10 mansions in New Kumogakure. Byakuya was also a highly skilled sword master, where he carried a regular katana, with a simple cross guard, which is a simple open frame, much like a 4-pane window. It had a light blue handle. Tatara Hamryo was the leader of the Tatara clan. Hamryo only recently became the leader of the Tatara clan since his grandfather retired as head of the clan and handed it to him. Although Hamryo was the youngest member of the War Council, since he was only 18, he was a competent leader and an excellent fighter, which earned him some respect from the other members, although he did not enjoy meetings like these since he preferred to be out on the field doing missions. The Tatara clan was a new clan that joined Kumo during the Civil War. Originally, the Tatara clan isolated themselves from the world when the shinobi villages were first formed, since they did not want to join any village but knew that they would either be forced to join or wiped out in case they became a threat to one of the villages. The Tatara clan hid themselves in a small hidden valley in the mountain ranges of Kumo. It was not until the Civil War began that they were discovered by the Godime Raikage forces. When he learned of their existence, he offered them a place to join Kumo, but they refused, not wanting to join the Civil War. Soon after, the Godime Raikage sent a large force of ninjas to destroy them and capture a few members of the clan so that he could breed a new clan under his control later on. Although the attack on the clan was successful, where 300 members of the clan were killed and about 70 others were taken prisoner, 200 members of the Tatara clan were able to escape. Hanryo's father as well as most of his family had been killed in that attack, where only his grandfather had survived and led the remainder of their clan to the rebel factions and joined them to avenge what the Godime Raikage had done and to rescue their captured clan members, which they eventually did. During the Civil War, the Tatara clan won great respect and renown by using their Kekkei Genkei to great effect. The Tatara clan bloodline was called the Kotan, steel release. This bloodline allowed them to manipulate anything metal into any form they want it to be. They could reform metal into almost any kind of weapon or tool they needed. They could also make their bodies as hard as steel. This of course made the clan extremely valuable as ninjas and allies, where after the Civil War they joined Kumo. Personality-wise, Hanryo was a confident young man, borderline why he also rarely lost his calm exterior and was quite intelligent for his age, although he was also eager for action and to prove himself in battle. He was the most gifted user in his clan fighting style and bloodline, where he mastered all his clan's techniques and created some of his own, which proved that he was ready to be clan head. Hanryo's only real defect was that he loved to flirt with pretty girls, which made all the worse since he was quite popular with the girls due to his good looks and cool personality, although he did know when to get serious, and this war council meeting was one of those times when he got serious. Hanryo had black spiky hair and had metal piercings on his ears and above his left eye. He also had dark brown eyes. He wore a light brown jacket and jeans and a blood red shirt underneath his jacket. He also had black boots on and carried a heavy metal skull chain around his neck and a metal chain around his waist so that he have metal to manipulate if caught in battle unprepared. Yuki Nadi was the leader of the Yuki clan. The Yuki clan had been created when large number of people had been subjected to experiments by the Godime Raikage scientists during the Civil War to try and create new bloodlines by experimenting with people genes with different experiments and using experimental formulas on them. In the end, the experiments, hundreds of people died from them and two new bloodlines were created. The first was the Yuki clan's bloodline, which enabled its members to pass through solid matter without harm. When this first bloodline was created, the Godime Raikage ordered his scientists create more people with this ability, so to create an entire clan of the perfect assassins. During that time 220 people were given this ability and were trained to use it to its full extent. Fortunately, Denko, what the Rokudime Raikage was called before he became the Raikage, and the rebels factions found out about the experiments and attacked the base where the experiments were being done and freed all those who were being experimented on, after which they quickly joined the rebel factions to get revenge on the Godime Raikage for what he did to them and for all their friends and families that died during the experiments. After the Civil War, all those with the ability to pass through solid matter without harm decided to form a clan and decided to call their clan the Yuki clan and call their ability Suka no Iki, the passing through spirit limit. They then made Nadi their leader, since she was the one to gather them together as a clan and she was the first one to have this ability. Nadi was a young woman who was highly intelligent as well as caring, respectful to other and quick-witty. She was also highly lethal in combat and at using her abilities to their full extent, in which she earned the nickname Ray Ghost. She wore traditional brown shinobi pants and sandals as well as brown hooded jacket with a fishnet shirt underneath it and two wrist blades on each arm for quickly silently killing any enemies. Ishida Rukin was the leader of the Ishida clan, and like the Yuki clan, the Ishida clan had been created due to experiments by the Godime Raikage scientists on people to create new bloodlines. The Ishida bloodline was the second to be created. The new bloodline that the Ishida clan could use was the ability to create weapons out of chakra, it allowing them to pierce or slice through any armor or weapon. They also had large amount of chakra reserves and all had flawless control over it. The more skilled members could even draw chakra from around them if they were low on chakra. When the Godime Raikage heard of these abilities, he ordered for more like them to be created and trained to use their new abilities, much like with the Yuki clan, in which 270 people were given these abilities. When the base that they were being held was liberated by the rebel factions, they joined the rebel factions for much of the same reason as the Yuki clan did. After the civil war, all those with the abilities to create weapons out of chakra decided to form the Ishida clan and decided to call their ability the Raryoku no Soju, manipulating spirit power limit. They also decided to make Rukin as the clan head, since he was the most powerful of all its members of the new clan. To most people, Rukin was a cold man who cared for nothing, yet those that knew him knew he cared deeply for clan and family, since it was his reasonability to lead and protect them. He did not speak much and would only make his opinion known when it was needed or asked. He was also the very serious type of man who would take any threat to the safety of his clan or Kumo very serious. Rukin wore a typical outfit that all Ishida clan members wore, which was a white, form-fitting, high-collared tunic with a blue cross symbol on his back, which was frequently on all the Ishida clan members' uniforms. Zhao Yun was leader of the Yun clan, who before the civil war were considered the most powerful clan in Kaminari no Kuni, and are still considered that by many. The Yun clan was also one of the 5 only no clans to have a bloodline before the civil war started, although that changed when it ended. The Yun clan bloodline was called Ryuten, Dragon Release, which gave them increased strength, speed and power, as well as to be able to transform into humanoid-like dragons, increasing their power exponentially. They even had a summoning contract for dragons. Although considered by many as ninja clan, the Yun clan fought more like samurai than ninjas, since they wore armor in battle and used weapons like spears, axes and long swords in battle, although they also used ninjutsu and had their own types of ninjutsu. Also, the Yun clan were not a clan in Kumo but were a clan that served and protected the royal family of Kaminari no Kuni, although some members joined Kumo to be ninjas. During the civil war, the Yun clan fought for Daimyo Yoshiaki even when it was learned that he was the one who had his brother and his family murdered, as well as many of their kinsmen and women who were with Daimyo Dosen and his family when they were killed. This was because they were swore to protect and serve the Satake royal family. But when it was learned that the Lady Kicho had survived the attack and was with the rebel factions to overthrow her uncle and reclaim Kaminari no Kuni, they quickly left and joined the rebel factions with as many warriors and samurai that were loyal to Lady Kicho's father. After the civil war, Zhao Yun was made the captain of Lady Daimyo Kicho Royal Guard. Later on, the Yun clan became an official clan of Kumo, where half of the clan were ninjas under the Raikage and the other half were the guardians of Lady Daimyo Kicho and served her. Zhao Yun was a man that was held in high regard by everyone in Kaminari no Kuni and Kumo, and was one of the great war heroes of the civil war. He was a man held honor, virtue and justice as the most important things. He was an extremely trustworthy man whom people could always depended on, and was fearless and would never give up hope even against the most impossible odds. He was an extremely handsome man where women would often flock to see him. He wore 9. He also carried an extendable spear that could be easily carried on a utility belt, and when taken out and flick the switch on it, it would extend into a long spear. 10. He even earned the nickname the Ryujin no Kumo, the Silver Dragon of Cloud. After the clan heads all arrived, 2 more people came in. They were Lu Xuan and Hiki Keinuho, commanded Kumo Air Forces. Lu Xuan was the commander of the air fleet of Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni. Although he was young, he was a highly skilled strategist and a former apprentice to Zhou Yu. Like Zhou Yu, Lu Xuan fought against the rebel factions, and for Daimyo Yoshiaki and the Godime Raikage he was a highly skilled user in fire techniques like Zhou Yu, but wasn't a ninja. He was also skilled in double sword fighting. When the civil war ended, he was pardoned for fighting against the rebel factions and was even given command of Kumo new airship fleet due to earning respect from the rebels faction for treating all prisoners respectfully and honoring the code of conduct in war by not targeting civilian cities and villages, much like his sensei Zhou Yu. Lu Xuan was a formal and humble person. He was also quick-witted and perceptive and believed in seeing the big picture. His outstanding talents and youthful energy helped inspire those around him. Where he always tried to see the best in every person, be they ally or foe. He'd address disasters with a prudent and sincere manner, always strived for an optimistic solution to the situation. Lu Xuan War 11. Hiki Kane was the commander of Kumo Sky Hawk Ninjas, which was a special force of ninja trained to use special portable wing gliders that would fold up on a person back like a backpack and then extend like wings when launched into the air through specially built catapults on the airships, fortress ships 12, and on the ground. The Sky Hawk Ninjas could then glide through the air firing bombs, kunais and jutsus down on the enemy or even fly over enemy walls and scout for enemies from the air. 13. They could even feed a small portion of the chakra into the portable wing gliders through the special chakra-absorbing metal that the portable wing gliders were made out of to keep them in the air even if there was not much wind in the air. It worked on a very similar manner of the Sky Ninja's gliders, but unlike theirs, the Sky Hawk Ninja portable wing gliders did not need much chakra to keep them in the air since the portable wing gliders were not as heavy as the Sky Ninja's gliders, although despite that the portable wing gliders were not as fast or maneuverable as the Sky Ninja's gliders. Kane was one of the first ninjas to become a Sky Hawk Ninja and was a top ace flyer when in the air, in which he quickly became the unit first commander. He was an energetic young man who was almost fanatically loyal to Kumo and the Raikage. He was also quick-witted and eager to go on mission, yet he also could analogize a situation very quickly and stay calm in even the most stressful situations. Kane wore a standard Anbu outfit with body armor, black vest and shinobi pants. Soon after Lu Xuan and Hiki Kane, Unohana Retsu and Yukai Masato, who appeared by Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, entered the room. Unohana Retsu was the head of Kumo Hospitals and of it Medical Nin Corp. Retsu was not from Kumo or Kaminari no Kuni. She was a traveling medic who traveled around the element continent treating people for any illness or injury. During the civil war in Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni, she was able to get into the country before the borders were sealed, in which she then started to treat ninjas, warriors and samurai alike on both sides for wounds they had gotten from battle. Since she did not care who they fought for, if they were injured and needed help, she would help them. She even took in and trained my young people who had been orphaned due to the civil war as her apprentices to help her when caring and healing the wounded or sick. She would often go to a battlefield when a battle was over and treat the wounded, in which she had saved many lives that would have died had it not been for her. It was because of this that she earned the nickname Chiyuno Megami, goddess of healing. Thanks to her healing and saving so many lives on both sides, she earned the respect of hundreds ninjas, warriors and samurai alike on both sides. Even when Daimyo Yoshiaki and the Godime Raikage ordered their men to attack her or one of her medical stations that she had set up with her apprentices, most of the time the commanders and the men would refuse or make up excuses to not attack out of respect and gratitude for what she had done for them. Although she was a healer, Retsu was also a shinobi and a highly skilled one at that, since when she was younger she had met with Suon the Slug Princess when she was on her travels with her apprentice Shizune, where she was able to get her to agree to train her. Retsu spent several years training under Tsunade, learning everything that Tsunade was willing to teach her, and after several years she parted ways with Suon to become a great medic on her own. From her training with Suon, Retsu became a highly skilled medic nin in both healing and in combat, which she had shown when on a few occasions she defended herself or her patients from Daimyo Yoshiaki and the Godime Raikage men, whom later greatly regretted following Daimyo Yoshiaki and the Godime Raikage orders due to the massive beatings they got from fighting her, since it had been rumored that Retsu was on par with Suon herself in healing and in fighting. Although despite this Retsu did not like to hurt or kill people, she considered herself a healer first and a shinobi second, saying, "It is easily to destroy something or take lives, but to save lives and heal others is harder, which is why it is the better." Retsu had a gentle and warm personality that augments her appearance. She was soft-spoken, polite, and a caring woman who used honorifics when addressing everyone, including her subordinates and enemies. She rarely showed any signs of panic or distress, and had a great sense of duty when it came to healing people. With her grace and kind manners, she would also let others know quietly that while she may be soft, she was not to be taken lightly. Since despite her gentle nature, many shinobi, samurai and warriors feared her that included her fellow commanders, and even the Raikage himself would not wish to be on the receiving of her wrath. Since according to most of the commanders, respectively, she can be extremely frightening and terrifying all at the same time, since many people agreed that they would never want to get on her bad side, most stating that fighting the Kyuubi himself and being destroyed by it would be a much more preferable fate than being on her bad side. When the civil war ended, the Raikage asked her to join Kumo and become head of its hospitals. He even offered her the chance to set up a medic nin program and give her complete control over it. Retsu agreed to the offer, although she also had some other conditions which the Raikage agreed to. The program had created with the help of her apprentices a large number of medic nins, and it became policy for each shinobi team to have a medic nin on it, which was proving to be a highly successful in reducing the loss of shinobis on missions. Yukai Masato was the head of CIND. He was an expert in infiltration, assassination, and at gathering information as well as misleading people with false information. Masato was not from Kumo. He was originally from the streets of Ta no Kuni. He was then taken in by Orochimaru since he had shown Orochimaru that he had some potential as a ninja. He was then experimented on by Orochimaru, who implanted some cells of a demon, which he had gotten from the corpse of a dead demon, into his body to see if he could create a ninjas with the powers of a demon. The experiments had worked, in which Masato had increased speed, strength, agility and power, as well as being able to transform into a demon-like creature. But when Masato found out what Orochimaru had done to him, he destroyed the lab and the research on the project and then fled, but not before vowing to one day make Orochimaru pay for what he did to him. For several years he roamed alone, traveling around the elemental continent and training himself. Eventually he arrived in Kaminari no Kuni just when the civil war started and was forced to hide in the mountains since the borders of the country were blocked and no one could get out or in. Eventually, at some point when hiding from a large force of ninjas loyal to the Godime Raikage, Denko, the name the Rokudime Raikage went by before he became the Raikage, had been wounded from an earlier fight and came across the cave that Masato was hiding in. Masato helped give Denko some medical aid to help him heal his wounds. Over the following days, hiding from the enemy ninjas, Denko and Masato talked and got to know one another. Eventually they became friends since they found that they had a lot in common with one another. Eventually Denko asked Masato to join him and the rebel factions and use his abilities to help them free Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni. At first Masato was unwilling to join, but eventually he agreed to help and use his abilities to great extent, where he earned the nickname Yukai ni, the Red Phantom. After the Civil War, the Raikage made him the head of CIND, where he used his various underground contacts that he had gained from his travels to great extent to help Kumo and the Heavenly Alliance. Masato was naturally a loner as well as a dark brooder, and often brooded over what he had become and carried many burdens and secrets. But despite his cold personality, he was not uncaring. He was actually a very caring person, especially for his friends. He fiercely despised Orochimaru for his various immoral actions to him and other poor victims. Masato was also reluctant to speak much, although whenever he did, he typically had something very important to say. He was also very close to the Raikage, and his bodyguards Niyugito, Fu and Killer Bee as well had a very good relationship with the Yuki and Ishida clans, mainly due that he knew what it was like to be experimented on. Also, despite what he thought of himself, Masato was a very attractive man, which had earned him the attention of many women. He had crimson eyes and long black hair that streams about a bit wildly at times. He wore a red band over his head with his bangs emerging over it. Although his most distinctive feature was his tattered red cape, that was held in place over his shoulders and lower face by several buckles. Underneath his cape, Masato's attire was black with several straps and buckles and pointed metallic boots. He also wore a golden gauntlet on his left arm and carried twin short swords on his back. Right after Retsu and Masato had arrived, Shihoin, Urahara Kazuki and Yu Ying arrived in the room. Shihoin Urahara Kazuki was the county head of research and development department where he developed several different machine and weapons for the village. For example, he was the one who developed the Kumo submarines as well as several other things, and with Yu Ying helped redesign the airship's plans that they got from Yuki no Kuni, Snow Country. Kazuki was Yoruichi's husband before the Civil War had started and was already head of research and development department, but due to the limited budget that Kumo had in that department he could not create the machines he could now. Both he and Yoruichi knew each other since childhood and were close friends and eventually dated one another, and just before the Civil War started they married. During the Civil War, Kazuki had helped develop several different items that were of great use to the rebel factions, such as a special food pill that kept a shinobi full for 3 full days without any need of food, as well as kept them energized with little side effect. After the Civil War he was made county head of research and development department where he continued to build machines and weapons for Kumo. Kazuki was laid back, jovial person who often made jokes about things, but despite that he also had another side to his personality where he would be deceptive, cunning, and serious when the situation demanded for it. Also, despite his carefree attitude, he always spoke politely, but was sometimes sarcastic. As well as sometimes over the top with whatever he becomes passionate about something. Kazuki wore traditional wooden sandals and a bucket hat. He also wore dark green pants with matching dark green shirt and a dark grayish-green coat, having large white diamond patterns along its bottom half. Yu Ying was also county head of research and development department. Much like Kazuki, she was also the wife of Zhuge Liang, the prime minister of Kaminari no Kuni and head of the council of Kumo, and advisor to both Lady Daimyo Kicho and the Rokudaime Raikage. She was a very beautiful woman with long red hair that went down to her hips. Although despite her beauty she was an highly skilled shinobi and an extremely intelligent woman, and created many machines and weapons such as the portable wing gliders and their launchers as well as other things. Like Zhuge Liang, she did not come from this country. She and her husband had only came when Zhuge Liang and her students had pleaded them to help them fight with the rebel factions. Eventually, after the country was freed and one of their students became the Raikage, both she and Zhuge Liang were the Rokudaime Raikage teachers as well. Before he became the Rokudaime Raikage, they were asked to stay and help build the Heavenly Alliance, which eventually both she and her husband agreed to stay. Yu Ying wore a green knee-high outfit, with heeled boots and black gloves that leaves some of her fingers uncovered, and wielded portable extendable spear and a bow and arrow. After Yu Ying and Kazuki had arrived and sat down in their seats at the war council table, Lady Daimyo Kicho herself arrived with her bodyguard Naomasa Katsumoto. Lady Daimyo Kicho was the daimyo of Kaminari no Kuni. She a extremely beautiful woman and was a graceful maiden who had excellent martial arts skills, in which she was also highly skilled in sword fighting since she had been trained in the samurai arts from a very young age and took to it very quickly. Unlike most other princesses, she preferred to train for combat since her father believed that everyone in his family should be able to defend themselves and not always rely on others to defend them. She was also quite intelligent and wiser than most people her age and wanted to do what was best for her people, especially after the civil war in her country. When her family was attacked by the Amako clan ninjas, she had tried to help defend her family but were eventually overwhelmed. Fortunately, her teacher and bodyguard Naomasa Katsumoto was able to help her escape and hid her as the civil war waged, since he feared that she would be assassinated by either side so that they could gain power. But during the civil war, the Naomasa clan castle was attacked by followers of Daimyo Yoshiaki. Fortunately, rebel shinobis led by Denko, the name the Rokudaime Raikage went by before he became the Raikage, arrived and saved them. When they learned that Kicho was the daughter of Daimyo Dosen and rightful ruler of Kaminari no Kuni, they immediately promised her their support to help her reclaim her throne as daimyo of Kaminari no Kuni. When she revealed herself to people of Kaminari no Kuni, Daimyo Yoshiaki tried to discredit her, stating that she was an imposter, but it had failed and she was able to gain the support of Yun clan as well as many warriors, samurai and samurai lords that had been loyal to her father, including her cousin, from her mother's side, Masamune Date, also known as the Azure Dragon or the Dokugenryu, the One-Eyed Dragon, who was the most powerful samurai lord of Kaminari no Kuni. During the Civil War she personally led her forces many times in battle and earned the nickname Ojokucho, Death Butterfly, due to the butterfly symbol she wore on her plate. When they won the Civil War she made Denko the Rokudime Raikage, and with his help and the help of other countries that the Raikage was able to get support from, they were able to rebuild both Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni and created the Heavenly Alliance. Kicho War 14, she also carried an O-katana on her side and carried a set of kuni on her right leg in a leg holder. Naomasa Katsumoto was leader of the Naomasa samurai clan and personal bodyguard and teacher to Lady Daimyo Kicho. He had served Kicho father for many years and fought through many battles where he had earned great fame from his battles and was highly respected by many samurai both in Kaminari no Kuni and around the elemental continuant. He was very loyal to Kicho since he considered Kicho like a daughter due to knowing her since she was very young. During the attack on the royal family, Katsumoto tried to protect them but they were overwhelmed. Daimyo Dosen, who had been mortally wounded in the battle, had ordered him to get Kicho out and protect her with his life, which he sworn to do and was just able to get her out. For 4 years of the Civil War he was able to keep her hidden until Daimyo Yoshiaki men attacked his castle since the Naomasa clan refused to join him and were staying neutral. When they were saved by Denko and his rebels' forces he had been naturally suspicious since he feared that they might try and use the princess to gain power or kill her before she became a threat to them, but thankfully he had been proven wrong since Denko proved to be an honorable man. Thanks to his help they were able to rebuild both Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni in just a few years and formed a powerful alliance with other nations to help one another. Kusumoto wore traditional crimson-red samurai armor and carried an O-katana on his side. Lady Daimyo Kicho, what are you doing here? We did not expect you to come to this meeting, said Zhao Yun as he and the other members of the war council stood up and bowed to the Lady Daimyo in respect as she sat on the seat on the pedestal overlooking the war council. I came here due to the Raikage informing me that this war council meeting was being held and that I should attend it. I hope you all do not mind me listening in, said Kicho. Of course not, Lady Daimyo, you are more than welcome, said Zhao Yun. When Lady Daimyo Kicho sat down 7 more people arrived, 4 of them were the personal bodyguards of the Raikage. They were Niyugido, Fu, Killer Bee and Okatsu, all of which except for Okatsu were Jinchurikis. One of other 2 was Zhuge Liang, Prime Minister of Kaminari no Kuni and head of the Council of Kumo and advisor to both Lady Daimyo Kicho and the Rokudime Raikage, and the other person next to him was Seiwa Anasu the Kumo no Aizuryu, the personal military advisor to the Raikage and second in command for all military matters in Kumo and answerable to only the Rokudime Raikage, and the final person among the group was the Raikage himself. Okatsu was confident, strong and intelligent kunoichi. She was a dedicated and loyal ninja who would glad give up her life for the Raikage. Although unlike the other bodyguards of the Raikage, Okatsu was not a Jinchuiki, she was a typical but highly skilled kunoichi. Also, she was not originally from Kumo or Kaminari no Kuni. She was from a small country whose lord was deposed in a revolt, and her clan, which was also small, had been wiped out due to they were loyal to the lord, and she had just managed to escape. After her escape of her clan slaughter, she had traveled for a while offering her services as a ninja to small lords and daimyos, but during one mission she had been captured by a group of missing nins due to her getting bad intel of their strength and numbers. They had beating her badly and had planned on raping her, but fortunately before they could the Raikage, this was before he even entered the civil war in Kumo and Kaminari and Kuni and before he became Raikage, and Seiwa Anasu had heard her screams for help as they tried to rape her. They quickly killed the men and the Raikage helped nurse her back to help from her wounds. He had even stayed by her sides when she slept since she had suffered from nightmares of her clan being killed and what had nearly happened to her. After she had healed, she had practically insisted only following them since she had told them that they had saved her life and saved her from being raped, hence her life was theirs, or more especially the Raikage for staying by her side for so long and helping to heal her. She traveled with them for a while, and when they entered the civil war she earned great respect and fame for her skills as a kunoichi in battle. After the civil war ended, the Raikage offered her the position as one of his bodyguards, which she took without hesitation since it was what she had wanted. Okatsu wore 15 and carried a katana on her lower back. Ni Yugito was a proud, wise and courageous kunoichi. She was also a firm young woman and thoughtful of her comrades. She had been made into a jinchuiki when she was only 2 and went through a detestable training that was imposed on her, although through it she was able to control her transformation into the Nibi no Bakeneko, the two-tailed monster cat, and use its power to its full extent. She also gained confidence in herself through hard work. She had been loyal to both Kumo and the Yondaime Raikage before the civil war started and was considered the second strongest shinobi in Kumo. When the civil war started, she fought for the Godaime Raikage along with the Killer Bee, the Jinchuiki of the Hachibi no Kyogyu, the eight-tailed giant ox, but this had not been of choice since when the Godaime Raikage first came into power he had special Juinjutsu, cursed seal techniques, seals put on them so that he could control them and force them to do what he wanted them to do. For the first 4 years of the Civil War, Yugito used her powers against the rebel factions, which had nearly caused the rebel factions to be wiped out. But when Denko, the name the Raikage took before he became the Raikage, united the rebel factions, he was able to beat back the forces of the Godaime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki on several occasions. But it was not until the Battle of Mikitagahara, which was often referred as the Storm Battle on the Great Plains, where the tide turned. It was where she and Killer Bee fought Denko, while the combined forces of the Godaime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki fought the combined forces of the rebel factions on the other end of the plain. During the battle, a massive storm arrived in the middle of the battle, and Denko used it to use his most power attack that defeated her, Killer Bee, and wiped out all 3,000 of Daimyo Yoshiaki reinforcements, who had arrived to assist in the battle, with a single attack. With the reinforcements wiped out and their Jinchuikis defeated, the Godaime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki and their forces had no choice but to retreat since they were beginning to lose the battle. The attack that Denko used had also nearly killed them, but lucky with their Biju they were able to heal their injuries. Soon after the battle, Denko, with the help of his sensei Zhuge Liang, was able to remove the seals her and Killer Bee had on them, after which they joined the rebel factions. Soon after the civil war, she, Okatsu and Killer Bee were made the personal bodyguards of the Rokudaime Raikage, and when the Heavenly Alliance was formed they were then joined by another Jinchuiki from Takigakure, the hidden waterfall, called Fu, who was also made the personal bodyguard of the Raikage. Yugito wore a tradition Anbu outfit with black shinobi shirt under Anbu body armor, arm pads and knee pads, as well as shinobi pants with a short katana on her back. Killer Bee was the Jinchuiki of the Hachibi no Kyogyu. He was also the younger brother of the Yondaime Raikage, who was assassinated by the Amako clan, and not only that, but he was also now the current clan head of the Yotsuki clan, since his brother was the previous clan head. The Yotsuki clan was one of Kumo founding clans and one of the only 5 clans with bloodlines in Kumo, which was the Raiden Storm Arlies, which allowed them to combine lightning and water to create beams of light energy and destroy anything it hits. Like Yugito, he was forced to obey the orders of the Godaime Raikage and fight the rebel factions. It was not until he was defeated by Denko and released from the seals that made him follow the Godaime Raikage orders that he joined the rebel factions and became the new clan head of the Yotsuki clan, since they were one of the first clans to side against the Godaime Raikage when they learned that he was the one to kill the Yondaime Raikage, and after the civil war Killer Bee was also made the personal bodyguard to the Raikage. Killer Bee was a funny enough person with a good sense of humor, although he demanded respect from others, such as calling him Jinchuriki-sama or Hachibi-sama. He enjoyed speaking in song, more specifically in rap style, even when he was fighting enemies. This of course got on people's nerves. He would even stop in mid-fight to write some rhymes down, which would often infuriate his enemies as well. He would spend hours on end rapping and rhyming, which would further annoy people, since despite how long he spent doing those things he was never any good at them. But despite his lack of skill in rapping and rhyming, he was one of Kumo's most powerful shinobis. He was able to fully use and control his Biju power when he transformed into the Hachibi no Kyogyu. Not only that, he was highly skilled in taijutsu and had incredible strength, much like his brother the Yondaime Raikage, and a master swordsman where using his own conventional style, which give him great versatility, and allowed him to fight with 8 swords at once. Killer Bee was a dark-skinned man and had possessed a muscular build, as well as white hair and beard. On his right shoulder, he had a tattoo that says, Iron, and on his left cheek, he had a tattoo of a bull's horn. He wore oval-shaped sunglasses and a white-colored forehead protector. He also wore a white-colored one-strap over one shoulder flak jacket of a jonin, with a red rope tied around his waist, white hand bands, and a white scarf around his neck, and carried 7 swords on his back. Fu was also a Jinchuriki like Killer Bee, and Yugito Shi was the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi no Kabutomushi, 7-tailed horn beetle. She was a shinobi of Takigakur and the most power shinobi that they had. She was highly skilled in earth-type jutsu thanks to the earth-controlling abilities of her Biju 16. She was sent to Kumo as an offering of Takigakur commitment to the Heavenly Alliance when they joined the Heavenly Alliance. Fu was a friendly person that was loyal to her people and would do anything to protect them. She would often spend time gardening, which she was quite good at thanks to her abilities. She also enjoyed playing with children and always made time to play with them. She was also a very confident woman and was courageous as well and could use her abilities to great effect when fighting. Fu has bright green hair and pink eyes. She wore a high white shirt and armlets and a fishnet waistband. She also wore her Takigakur forehead protector on her right arm and her Kumogakur on her left. She also carried a cylindrical object on her back. Zhuge Liang was Prime Minister of Kaminari no Kuni and head of the Council of Kumo and advisor to both Lady Daimyo Kicho and the Rokudaime Raikage. Hence he was one of the most powerful and respected men in all of Kumo and Kaminari no Kuni. He was a wise strategist with unsurpassed intelligence. He was known to many as the Nimariru, sleeping dragon, due to like a sleeping dragon no one would dare to challenge him, for if they did like a dragon when he wakes he would utterly destroy them with his incredible power. Zhuge Liang was a master genjutsu user, which shows where he hid new Kumogakur under a powerful genjutsu cloud, and was also a master at using different jutsus and combining them to make them more powerful. It is rumored that Zhuge Liang's skill and power at using jutsus was on par with the late Shinobi no Kami, god of shinobi, Sarutobi Hiruzen the Sandaime Hokage. Zhuge Liang was also a master strategist where many rulers of other nations had often tried to have him under their employment so to command their armies. It was because of his strategies that the rebel factions won some of their greatest victories, such as the taking of Fan Castle, where he tricked the defenders into thinking that he had his men, who were besieging the castle, had left and ran away when the defenders had sent a large numbers of their men to pursue them. He and his men revealed themselves to have hidden nearby and attacked the castle when it was so lightly defended and took it without much problem, while the defenders that were tricked out of the castle were ambushed and captured by some of Zhuge Liang's men who hidden themselves to ambush them. Zhuge Liang was also the former teacher of both the Raikage and Seiwa Anasu before they joined the civil war in Kaminari no Kuni and Kumo, and when they did join the civil war they were able to convince him and his wife Yu Ying to join the rebel factions and fight to free the country. After the civil war, Lady Daimyo Kicho asked for Zhuge Liang assistance in helping to rule her country and asked him to be her advisor, as did Denko when he became the Rokudaime Raikage. He eventually even became head of the Council of Kumo since everyone respected his opinion and advice, and was later on named the Prime Minister of Kaminari no Kuni. Personality-wise, Zhuge Liang was a placid and calculating man who was always thinking one step ahead. He often stated that every turn in battle is a part of his effortless planning. He spoke with a polite and proper manner at all times, albeit terrifyingly so when he completely stumps his enemies. Though his intentions are sometimes questioned, his loyalty to his former students was unquestionable. Zhuge Liang wore very basic robes, with yin-yang symbols on opposite sides of each other, and mostly made up of green, and mystical and golden designs, and had a thin beard and mustache in a similar manner of a noble. Zhuge Liang was often seen carrying a large fan in which he uses it to create power wind jutsus. Seiwa Anasu, also known as the Kumo no Aizuryu, he was the personal military advisor to the Raikage and was second in command for all military matters. Anasu was a tall man about 6'2". He had long white hair that went down to his lower shoulder blades and would have it parted on the left side of his face. He had a slightly narrow yet handsome face with bright blue eyes. Like the Raikage and some of the other members of the War Council, he was not original from Kaminari no Kuni. Anasu joined the civil war and fought with the rebels when they witnessed the atrocities that the forces of the Godime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki were doing, where they decided to fight with the rebel factions. They were then able to convince their former senseis Akechi Mitsuhide and Miyoshi Sayuri as well as Yu Ying and Zhuge Liang to join them in the fight. Both he and Denko rose through the ranks of the rebel factions very quickly, where Denko was able to unite the rebels in a powerful fighting force and help them win many victories. Anasu also won his share of great glory in the war, where at the Battle of Eagle's Peak, where the rebel fleet and the fleets of the Godime Raikage and Daimyo Yoshiaki fought, and Anasu used his ice abilities to create a massive ice storm to freeze over both enemy fleets and single-handedly wiping out 2/3 of the fleets with the one jutsu which earned him the nickname Kumo no Eijiryu. Anasu was originally from Mizu no Kuni. He was of the Seiwa clan, who were known for their ability to create and use ice jutsu, which forced Anasu family to go into hiding when the Bloodline Crusade began. But unfortunately his family were found and they were all killed by bloodline hunters, and had his senseis Akechi Mitsuhide and Miyoshi Sayuri not arrived and saved him, he would have died as well. They then took him with them and trained him. After a few years they also came across Denko, who they took in as well. The two of them trained together all the time for 2 years and became the best of friends and friendly rivals. Eventually their senseis took them to Zhuge Liang to be trained by him. After a few years they left together to travel and learn things on their own, which was when they got involved in the civil war in Kaminari no Kuni. After they won the civil war, Denko then became the Rokudime Raikage and he became his personal advisor and right-hand man. Many people often referred Anasu personality to be like water, where he would often be calm and go with the flow, like water, but become as hard and cold as ice in battle and would kill his enemies without mercy. He was also very mature despite his personality and would get serious when the situation called for it. He would often talk and joke around with the Raikage, and the two of them could be found often sparring with one another since they had a sort of rivalry in terms of getting stronger. Anasu was also extremely loyal to his friends and to his loved ones and would not hesitate to put himself in harm's way to protect them. Anasu wore a black sleeveless shirt with black shinobi pants and wore black boots with steel tips at its toes and heels, as well as wore a white trench with the kanji symbol for frost on it back with blue snowflake on the edges of the trench coat. He also had a green sash around his shoulders, held together by a round clip. The sash held his long sword sheath in place on his back and is tied to it at either end. His sword was called Hirinmaru. Its blade was about 1.4 meters long with the exception of the guard, which is in the shape of a four-pointed bronze-colored star. After everyone was seated, the Raikage began the meeting. Thank you all for coming so quickly. I know that you all were busy working with your own duties, but information that I have just recently received made it vital that I speak with you all now, spoke the Raikage. What exactly is it that is so important that you had to call a war council, Raikage-sama? Asked Ryu. 2 hours ago Captain Yoruichi of the Bolt Division arrived in my office informing me that she was able to make contact with the rebel factions of Mizu no Kuni. Although she could not get an alliance with the rebel factions, she was able to make an agreement with them where in exchange for food and medical supplies they would agree to share information with us on the plans and movements of the Mizu Daimyo and the Godime Mizukage forces, said the Raikage. This of course got several murmurs to go around the war council. But why would they not want an alliance with us? They could do with all the help they could get, asked Kane. It's simple. They don't trust us, answered Goto. But why don't they? We have never attacked them, we share the same enemy, we should help one another, Kane openly spoke. Even though we share the same enemy, once they are gone we could easily turn on them and take over Mizu no Kuni, where they would have traded one corrupt and cruel ruler for another corrupt and cruel ruler, or at least that how they might see it, answered Yu Ying. But we're not like that. The Raikage built Heavenly Alliance so to unite people and ensuring people are treated fairly and that nations could solve their problems peacefully, said Kane. That may be well and true, but the rebel factions of Mizu no Kuni know very little of use other than that the Raikage-sama wiped out an entire fleet of Mizu no Kuni and Kiri warships with over 8,000 Mizu warriors and samurai along with 2,000 Kiri shinobi. They have no real reason to trust us, and if we want their trust we have to earn it, said Soifan. Captain Soifan is correct that we have to earn the trust of the rebel factions if we want them to be our allies. But the matter on the alliance between us and the rebel factions of Mizu no Kuni was not why I called this meeting, spoke the Raikage seriously. This caused everyone in room to be silent and listen to the Raikage. The reason I asked you all here was because when Captain Yoruichi arrived and informed me on the agreement between us and the rebel factions, she also informed me that on her way back she received information from Saito Hajime, leader of one of the rebel factions of Mizu no Kuni. He informed me that 5 days ago Princess Saki of Umi no Kuni, Sea Country, was captured by a squad of warships sent by the daimyo of Mizu no Kuni and the Godime Mizukage to capture her, said the Raikage. This got many shock looks from several members as well as some gasps of surprise from others and a few frowns from the more senior members. Are you certain of this, Raikage-san? Asked Lady Kicho in a serious tone voice, and was frowning in anger since she knew Princess Saki well since they had met several times and consider each other friends. Yes, not long after I spoke to Saito I made contact with King Tasuki Michiru through the projection ball I gave to him when Tasuki no Kuni became our ally. He confirmed with me that the princess had been captured by Mizu no Kuni and Kurigakure, replied the Raikage. Those bastards, do they really think that we let them get away with kidnapping the fiancé of one of our allies? Kane spoke angrily. Raikage-sama, did they make any ransom demands for the return of the princess to either Umi no Kuni or Tasuki no Kuni? Asked Zhuge Liang calmly. Yes, when I contacted King Tasuki Michiru he had just received a message from the Mizukage and the Mizu daimyo stating that they have captured the princess and were holding her prisoner until both countries agree to give full control of Muzi no Kuni and Umi no Kuni trade alliance to Mizu no Kuni as well as full control of their fleets to Mizu no Kuni whenever they needed them, and that the shinobi of Tsukigakure, Hidden Moon, would come to fight for Kiri whenever they called for them, stated the Raikage. Did they really think that either of those two countries will agree to such demands? Said Hamryo angrily, since it pissed him off what the Mizukage and the Mizu daimyo were doing. They may have no choice. She is the princess of Umi no Kuni, is well loved by her people, not to mention I hardly think that her brother or her father the Umi daimyo will let her rot in some prison in Mizu no Kuni or even be killed for not agreeing to Kurigakure and Mizu no Kuni demands. I also don't think that the Prince Hikaru of Tasuki no Kuni will allow either of those things happen to his fiancé either, stated Anasu. Raikage-sama, didn't the princess have any shinobi bodyguards with her or have a large fleet to protect her? Asked Sayuri. Unfortunately, the princess insisted that she only have a light guard of 20 royal guards and a team of Konoha ninjas with no escort ships. I had offered to send ships or some teams of our own ninjas to protect the princess, but the Umi daimyo insisted on using Konoha shinobi considering his past dealings with them, answered the Raikage. Who exactly did Konoha send to protect the princess? Asked Kai Wengi. They sent Rock Lee, also known as Konoha Nadaime no Kedakai Aoi Moju, Konoha's second prideful green beast, one of Konoha top Jonin fighters and husband to the clan head of the Kurama clan. Akamichi Choji is known as Konoha no Kyojin Kyude, Konoha strong-armed giant, an heir to the head of the Akamichi clan as well as member of the Neo-Ino Shika Cho. Uehi Sarutobi Kurani, Konoha famed genjutsu specialist, former wife of the late Sarutobi Asuma of the Shugonin Junichi 12 guardian ninja, and aunt to Konoha no Enku, monkey king of Konoha, Sarutobi Konohamaru, and Haruno Sakura, also known as Konoha Chiyu Sakura, healing Sakura of Konoha, and apprentice of the Godime Hokage, answered the Raikage neutrally. So much for Konoha's best, scoffed Shiden. There is more. I'm afraid it seems that the rumors of Kurigakure having volley guns from Yuki no Kuni are true and have placed them on their ships. They have even made them more compact by building handheld versions of them for their shinobis to carry, said the Raikage. This caused many worried looks to appear on the faces of many of the War Council members. Are you certain of this, Raikage-sama? Asked Kazuki with a slight frown on his face. Yes. Saito gave me a perfect description of what the ones on the ship look like and they match what the large volley guns look like, said the Raikage. This could cause us a great deal of trouble if we do not deal with this quickly. Do we know where the princess is being held? Asked Lu Xuan. Yes. She being held in the hold, answered Yoruichi. This caused many people to frown since they knew that the hold was the strongest prison in all of Mizu no Kuni. It figures that they would put the princess there since it is the most secure place they could put her in, said Masato. But the question now is, what do we do? Mitsuhide asked openly. Isn't it oblivious we have to rescue her? We can't let Kiri or Mizu no Kuni think that they can get away with doing something like this to our allies without paying the price, shouted Gon Ning to Mitsuhide as he stood up, in which he then turned to face the Raikage. Raikage-sama, give me the order and I have a full battle group of our best warships ready in a day, 2 at the most, and we take the prison and rescue the princess, said Gon Ning. No. If you go there like that, you will most likely be intercepted by the fleet of ships that they have stationed there. Plus, even if you break through their ships, you have to deal with the prison defenses, and even then the princess could very well likely be killed or injured as you attack the base. They could even take her out of the prison when you attack and take her to the capital of Mizu no Kuni, where we would never be able to rescue her then, Kane said to Gon Ning, and then turned and stood up. Raikage-sama, this is a job for my Sky Hawk ninjas and I. Give me the word and I will lead a squadron of airships loaded with 3 dozen of my best flyers to attack the prison. While the airships attack the prison, my men and I will fly into it and get the princess out before the Kiri ninja there knows what has happened, said Kane confidently. I'm afraid that will not walk either, Kane-san, since most likely Kiri will have their new volley guns on their defense towers, not to mention the ships there will have them too. Hence when the airships are flouting around the prison firing on the enemy, they will make easy targets for Kiri volley guns to fire upon and be shot down. Even if you have the airships stay up high so that the volley guns won't be able to hit them, the airships will still have to come down to pick you and your people up, hence they will be shot down. Plus the prison holds up to 300 prisoners and we do not even know what cell she is being held in, stated Nady, in which she turned to the Raikage. Raikage-sama, I believe this situation is best suited for the Bolt Division since they are trained for quick inflations missions like this one, or better yet, have some of my clan members go into the prison and sneak into it and get the princess out of the prison without them ever knowing how she ever escaped, said Nady. Many of the other members of the War Council nodded their heads in agreement, likely that plan the best out of 3 since it had the best chance of succeeding. Although your plan DOS sounds like the best plan out of all 3 plans, Nady-san. I myself have a plan that could work even better, where not only do we rescue the princess but we will also get the rebel factions of Mizu no Kuni as our allies, as well as gain the alliance 1 or 2 more members to join it and show everyone the strength of Kumogakure and the Heavenly Alliance, since I believe it finally time for us to do so, said the Raikage. This caused many of the members to go wide-eyed while others raised their eyebrows in surprise, since for the past 3 years since the Heavenly Alliance first formed they have kept their true strength hidden from the world until they were fully ready to reveal themselves. Now it seems that the time had come to begin to show what they were truly capable of. Are you certain it time, Raikage-sama? Asked Byakuya, to which the Raikage just nodded. So what exactly is your plan to free the princess and gain the rebel factions of Mizu no Kuni as our allies and new members into the Heavenly Alliance in one fell swoop, Raikage-sama? Asked Goto. The Raikage then handed out some folders that he had been carrying when he entered the War Council room. When everyone had one each, he asked them to read the plan detailing what he planned to do. After about 10 minutes everyone and finished reading the plan. Many members had raised eyebrows in either surprise or interest. A very bold plan, Raikage-sama, said Zhao Yun, I concur, although it could very well work, said Retsu. Can we really do what it says we have to do in the time frame we have? Asked Nady. I believe we can if Saito and his people fulfill their end of the deal, since I contacted him again before I came here to ask for the information we need and ask him his people at the hold could do the other things we need them to do, and he said he would get the info we need and send it by tomorrow afternoon, and his people there could do the job, said the Raikage. But still, this plan relies a great deal on Saito giving us the correct information and for his people to do the job right. For all we know, he may sell us out and lure us into a trap, or they could ruin the plan for us altogether, said Rukin. I don't believe he will, since Saito gains to benefit greatly if this plan succeeds and his people are not armatures, countered the Raikage. I have to say this is by far the most daring, reckless and bold plan I have ever come across, yet it still has a very good chance of succeeding, said Zhuge Liang with a slight amusement in his voice and a small smile on his face. Thank you, Sensei, I do try not to disappoint you, said the Raikage with his own smile. It seems that you have thought of everything in this plan, which I guessing you were able to form this plan from studying with the plans on the hold, and the other intel we had on it that we were able to steal from Kiri. You even considered the possibility that volley guns are stationed on their guard towers and they may have ones hidden somewhere, as well as how to delay the Shinbis stationed there and cause utter confusion when we attack. A very impressive, Raikage-sama, said Ryu. Well, you got my vote on it, since it fits my style perfectly, since it's bold, flashy, and sends a clear message to the world what we're really capable of. Plus, I was getting tired of us hiding away what we truly capable of, said Hamrio with a slight smirk on his face. So does everyone agree to my plan, or shall we do Nady-san plan instead? Asked the Raikage. After a few minutes of discussing with one another, the War Council voted and put to a vote, where it was decided that they would go for the Raikage plan. Very well, then by tomorrow we should have the information on the locations of all the prisoners and who is in what cell, as well as the locations of all the volley guns there if they are there. After which we will then have 2 days to prepare the forces needed for the operations. It then should take another 2 days by airship to get to Mizu no Kuni. On the third they will attack the prison, in which hopefully Saito people will be in place and be ready when our forces attack, and our teams will rescue the princess, and the following day the teams will meet our escort fleet at the meeting point, stated the Raikage. Once everyone nodded their heads in agreement, they all left to discuss with themselves what will happen in the next few after everyone but the Raikage had left the War Council room, but he too soon left to go home. But as he did, he was in deep thought. The winds of change are finally beginning to blow. Soon a storm will arrive that will destroy this cruel and corrupt world that refuses to change for the better, and a new peaceful and better world shall be born from its ruins, thought the Raikage as he left the War Council room. A few hundred feet above the village of New Kumogakure, on the sides of the mountains surrounding the village, there were several large platforms built on the mountain sides for Kumo's airships to land on and allow people to board or leave the airships. Kumo's airships were large hulking war machines which were air-powered and employ the use of multiple propeller sets on top of their hulls. The airships were extremely long in length and had an ornamental dragon's head to instill fear into enemy forces. The airships were made entirely of metal and were crewed by at least 20 crewmen and 20 ninjas and 10 Skyhawk ninjas. They could carry dozens of bombs that they could drop from the hatches on their underbellies in order to destroy ground targets, as well as drop pods for ninjas' airdrop attacks. Also, small catapult launchers for launching Skyhawk ninjas were built on these ships, and catwalks hung from the ship's underside so that ninjas could fire jutsu at oncoming enemy air forces, should another nation build any of their own, or down at enemies below. The ninjas on the catwalks would also be secured with harnesses to keep them from falling off. The ships also had 3 large man-sized ballistas built onto either side of the airship and volley guns built at the forward and underbelly of the airships, along with a newly developed weapon called a lightning cannon under the ornamental dragon head, so to fire down at enemies or even at other flying aircrafts. Currently on the platform, the Raikage was talking to the commander of the unit he was sending on the mission to rescue the princess. I wish you luck, Commander. I know that you and your teams will accomplish your mission, said the Raikage. Thank you Raikage-sama, we shall not fail you. We will meet you at the meeting point as planned, said the commander, who was wearing a falcon-shaped Anbu mask that had black lines on it. One day later in Konoha Council Room. Currently in Konoha Council Room, the members of Konoha Council were sitting at their seats at the council table. They had all been summoned by the Hokage for an emergency meeting for some unknown reason. Soon after they arrived, Tsunade and Jiraiya entered the room. Hokage-san, why have you called us all here for this emergency meeting? Asked Kaharu in an almost demanding tone of voice and without the traditional sama when speaking the Hokage. Suan just frowned at Kaharu's tone. The old hag and that old war hawk Danzo were getting too full of themselves, thinking that they could boss her around like a fresh genin. She often wished that she and Jiraiya had killed the two of them when they learned their plan about Naruto and the Akatsuki, but she knew that if she killed them then it would bring nothing but trouble, since the two of them had the civilian council members in their back pocket. Not to mention several other important people in Konoha. That would make life in Konoha very hard if she were to kill them or remove them from their positions. Not to mention she had no question that if Danzo was killed, his root division would rebel against Konoha, causing complete chaos in the village, especially since she did not know all of the locations of Danzo bases. The bastard was as slippery as her old snake of a teammate was, which would result into civil war, and that was the last thing they needed right now. So she decided to ignore what Kaharu had said. Good afternoon, thank you all for coming so quickly. I sure that you are all wondering why I called this meeting, said Suan, which caused Kaharu to frown since she had just asked her that and she just ignored her. 3 hours ago we received a message from the Umi Daimyo informing us that 9 days ago his daughter Princess Saki, who was being guarded by Kurenai-san and her team, was captured by warships from Kurigakure and Mizu no Kuni, said Suan. This caused the civilian council members to started shouting about what happened. As they were shouting, several of the clan heads had worried looks on their faces since people they cared about were on that team. Lee-kun, Yakumo thought worriedly about her husband. Choji thought Choza fearing for his son. Kurenai Obasan thought Konohamaru as he began to worry about his aunt. After a quick burst of killing intent and a frosty glare that would have frozen hell itself from Hinata, the civilian member wisely shrank down and shut up. This caused Suan to smile a little in gratitude at her former student for shutting the fools up. Hokage-sama, how exactly was the princess captured? As I do not think that Kurenai-sensei would hand over her to Mizu no Kuni and Kiri, spoke Hinata, as she too was worried about her former sensei that had been like a second mother to her when she was younger. At this question Jiraiya intervened and answered Hinata's question. It seems that somehow the Mizu Daimyo and the Godime Mizukage found that Princess Saki was leaving to go to Tasuki no Kuni to go to her wedding and had only a light guard protecting her. They then sent 3 Mizu no Kuni warships and 2 Kiri warships to capture the princess. Also, according to the royals' guards who were assigned to protect the princess, the 2 Kiri warships had volley guns and they had even created handheld versions of them and given them to their ninjas. Which was why when they saw what they had, the princess surrendered herself to them so that they would spare the others' lives, spoke Jiraiya, where after he had finished speaking pandemonium erupted in the council room but was quickly silenced with a burst of killing intent coming from Suan this time. So it seems that the rumors that you reported to us about Kiri getting their hands on the plans on Haru, Yuki no Kuni, Spring, Snow Country, volley guns were true, and not only have they built them onto their fleets but have also created handheld versions of them. This is greatly troubling, said Danzo said with a frown. But what happened to my husband and the other members of his team? Asked a worried Yakumo. I'm afraid that Kiri decided to take them as prisoners to interrogate them for information on us, answered Suan sadly, since like some of the other members of the council she was worried about the members of the team including Sakura, for although she was still a bit angry for her past sins against Naruto, that didn't mean she wanted her to be tortured, raped and killed, which was what would most likely would happen to her. This caused Yakumo to gasp in fear, knowing what that meant, and put her hand to cover her mouth as thoughts of Lee being tortured crept into her mind, where a black pit of dread started to form in her stomach as she thought of this. Where are the princess, Kurenai-san, and her team being held? asked Homaru. They are being held in the hold, answered Jiraiya. This caused a good bit of worried muttering since everyone knew the infamous prison of Kurigakure which none had ever escaped from and where they held most of the political prisoners of both the Mizu daimyo and the Mizukage, not to mention the large number of rebel ninjas that were held there as well. So what do we do now? Asked Homura. What do you think we have to rescue them? Shouted Konohamaru. Konohamaru had grown up quite a bit in the past 10 years. He was now a tall young man about 5'8" and wore the standard attire for a jonin with a green flat jacket and black shinobi pants and shirt underneath the flat jacket. His hair was still spiky but was now longer, where he had his tied up in a short ponytail at the back of his head and had his headband around his head. He also carried a small metal tube on his right side hip where once he flicked the small switch on the tube it would extend into a long metal battle pole to use when fighting. The extendable battle pole was a new device that Mikumo Tenshin, 1010 father, had created based on another new device, the extendable spear that an old blacksmith friend of his from outside the village had shown him, which according from him had been created in Kumogakure. Konohamaru-san, please settle down, since things like this are not that simple. We cannot waste vital resources and risking more lives on a single team, since every shinobi knows that there is always a risk of something like this happening. Besides, it would take a small army of shinobis to attack that prison, and we can't afford to send that many to attack the hold, since if we did, Iwa, Kusa, Odo or the Hanya clan would most likely take advantage of our depleted numbers and attack us. Kurenai-san and her team are expendable losses, stated Kaharu simply without so much as a shred of sympathy. To hell with that. My grandfather always told me Konoha shinobis never abandoned their comrades. Not to mention right now my little cousin is staying at my home waiting for his mother to return home, and I be damned if I going home to tell him that his mother has been captured and no one is willing to try and rescue her. He has already lost his father before he was even born, so there is no way in hell I going to let him grow up without a mother too, shouted Konohamaru. There are many orphans in this world, Sarutobi-san, and many shinobis with children who know well that whenever they go on missions that they may leave their children as orphans. Besides, what is one more orphan in this village to the many that there are now, stated Danzo coldly. Konohamaru was about to blow his gasket and attack the one-eye bastard for his comment, but Yakumo spoke up before he could do anything. You may be willing to leave them all to be tortured and killed in that prison, Danzo, speaking his name with venom, but I'm not, and there is no way I going to let my daughter grow up without her father either, said Yakumo. I agree with Konohamaru-san and Yakumo-san, there not a chance in hell I going to let my son rot in that place, spoke Choza as he slammed his fist down on the council table, making large cracks on the table. Both Shikaku and Inoichi nodded in agreement. As my mother so often tells me, a pack never abandons its members, said Hana, who had recently took over the position as clan head from her mother, who was now helping teaching younger Inuzuka children to work with their canine partners. I also agree with Sarutobi-san in rescuing Kurani-san and her team, since although sometimes some of the hive must sacrifice themselves for the good of the hive itself, it is not in this case, since Kurenai-san, Lee-san, Choji-san and Sakura-san are all powerful and valued members of Konoha. Also, they know a great deal of our secrets, and if they reveal them to Kiri, they will use them to greatly hurt us, so logic dictates that we must save them to prevent that from happening, answered Shibi. I agree as well, and if Konoha does not agree to send a team to rescue Kurenai-sensei, then I and my clan will, and I will personally lead that team myself, announced Hinata as she stood up and spoke with confidence and determination. Hinata had also grown up quite a bit as well, where instead of short hair her hair was now long that reached down to her lower back. She also wore typical shinobi black pants and fishnet shirt and a midriff tank, which showed of her impressive figure and bust, although she cared little of that. Hinata also wore black fingerless gloves and wore a long white sleeveless coat with the Hyuga clan symbol on it and yellow flames on the edges *. Hinata's statement of course got many surprised looks from everyone, since Hinata had just stated that if they did not go rescue Kurenai and her team, that she and the Hyuga clan would go on their own and rescue the others themselves. Hence if they did do that it would hurt Konoha reputation greatly, since if one of their most prominent clans, the Hyuga clan, went against Konoha ruling and took upon themselves to try and rescue one of their captured teams, it would make Konoha look incompetent. Since people would believe that Konoha had no control over their shinobis and their clans, hence they would lose face and more business from current clients, and that was the last thing they needed, since they were already in a hard spot as it is in financial and economical standing. That will not be needed, Hinata. We will send an infiltration team to rescue Kurani and the others as well as Princess Saki, said Suand. Hokage-sama, you can't be serious. We can't afford to lose any more of our best shinobis. All we be doing is weakening ourselves, shouted Ashikaga Shin. I am very much serious, and this is a ninja matter, Ashikaga, hence you have no say. Beside, you don't understand the situation that we are in right now. Rounded Suand. Situation? What do you mean, Hokage-sama? Asked a confused Shin. Suand just sighed and said, when I received the message from the Umi daimyo, he spoke how furious he was with it, how the team that we sent to protect his daughter failed to protect her. After we declared that we would make sure that no harm would come to her and that we sent some of our very best ninjas to protect her. But that was not our fault. There was no way we could have known that Kiri would be waiting to ambush us, not to mention that they would have those weapons with them, said Asai Haida. That still doesn't change the fact that our ninjas failed to do what they were hired to do, and even after all our assurances, said Tsunade, where she then continued. Hence we have no choice but try and rescue both Kurenai's team and the princess, or we throw away any chance we have of good relationships with Umi no Kuni and Tasuki no Kuni, and also risk further isolating ourselves further. Then what are we waiting for? Baa-chan, let me and my team go and we rescue them all, roared Konohamaru. That is enough, Konohamaru. Rushing off half like that will only end up in disaster, ordered Suand, which got the young man to calm down and sit back down onto his seat, after which Tsunade spoke again. Before we make any kind of rescue attempt, we need information on the prison and where Princess Saki, Kurenai and the others are being held, after which we will need to make a plan of attack to infiltrate the prison and get them out as quickly as possible. Jiraiya, I need you to head to Mizu no Kuni and get as much information on the hold as you can and find where Kurenai and the others are all being held in it as soon as possible. Also, if you can see if you can get us pictures of the prison, or better yet plans of it if possible. Order Suand. Right, Haim, I do what I can, replied Jiraiya and quickly shunshined away. Once Jiraiya has gotten all the information on the prison that he can, I want you, Shikaku, and your son Shikamaru to create a plan to allow us to infiltrate the hold, ordered Suan, to which Shikaku just nodded. This meeting is dismissed, said Suan to the council. As the council members were leaving, many were muttering about what they had learned, many were talking about what they were going to do in ways they could save the princess and Kurenai and the others. While some others like Danzo, Kaharu and the civilian members were commenting that this was a mistake and a waste of valuable resources that could be put to better use. Suan could only scoffed at them. After they had all left, she then started to leave the room. She needed a drink badly but knew she couldn't, since she had stopped drinking ever since Nato was banished. First, most of our allies and clients turned their back on us for banishing Naruto, then the Heavenly Alliance is formed and takes most of our missions from us, then Orochimaru rebuilds Oto's forces and gathers Iwa, Kiri, Kusa and the Hanya clan to ally against us, and now this. Things seem to only get worse and worse for us, thought Suand. After which she then looked out to the blue cloudless sky. Is this the heaven's wrath on us for turning our backs on Naruto, or is it you, Naruto, who is punishing this village from the heavens for betraying you? 2 days later, in a prison cell in the hold. Currently laying on top of her bed in her cell was Sakura. She and the others had been in the prison for about a week. They arrived at the hold after a 4-day trip from where they were ambushed to here. After they had arrived, they were all separated and put into different cells, although she did know that Kurani was in the cell on her right while the princess was in the cell on her left. They could not make contact with one another. Sakura was wearing a standard gray prison outfit with a long short-sleeved shirt and long gray trousers with normal sandals. She also had a collar around her neck with special seals placed on it where it suppressed her chakra and kept her from using it. It also would paralyze her body should any of the guards activate it, and if she tried to tamper with it, it would exploded with enough force to blow of her head off. Fortunately for the past week, nothing had happened so far in being held in the hold, since they hadn't been interrogated yet for information, which was fine by her. Although she knew that eventually they would start soon enough, they were mostly likely deciding what to do with them and how to interrogate them. As she lay on her bed looking up at the ceiling, she had not much to do other than think about how things had changed since Naruto banishment. Thinking about him made her think about how much of a cold-hearted and selfish bitch she was to him. She remembered how she used to fawn over Sasuke all because he was talented, handsome and from a powerful and noble clan, in which due to her stupid crush over him it had cost her a good friend that she truly never deserved. It made her sick as she remembered how weak and foolish she had been, where she spent all her time trying to look nice for Sasuke while she could have used the time to train and get stronger. She then began to remember where the truth was finally slapped in her face by Tsunade, who had revealed to her how stupid, selfish and weak she had been for the past few years as she fawned over Sasuke.